The actual physical reality of playing Warhammer 40,000 is mostly this. It is a tabletop hobby where grown adults spend their free evenings adjusting a brush by a fraction of a millimeter to put a pupil onto the eye of a 2-inch space soldier. Layered over this delicate craft is the most aggressive fiction ever written. In this universe, compassion is a tactical vulnerability, on purpose. And here is the strange part. These are modern, irony-poisoned adults, yet they regularly read scenes in tie-in novels about a genetically engineered angel dying on a fortress wall, and in the privacy where no one is watching, they quietly tear up. They would sooner be caught shoplifting than weeping at a real-world flag. We have to figure out how the most ridiculous sci-fi setting ever created reliably triggers genuine, tragic awe in the most disenchanted demographic the species has ever produced. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche called the air we breathe Socratic optimism. It is the cheerful, bottomless faith that the world is perfectly intelligible. Under this system, every tragedy is simply a problem. Every problem has a solution. Evil is just a form of ignorance waiting for the right educational intervention. This framework runs our modern morality system. It measures human action through guilt, safety, and obligation. What falls off the map completely is awe. We lost the vocabulary for greatness that is also terrible, for the load-bearing good that gets crushed anyway without any clear policy to blame. Try reading Thomas Babington Macaulay's poem out loud with the lights on. How can man die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods? You flinch. Your internal censor catches the naked sincerity of those words and forces a saving, ironic smile. The human heart did not change. Our culture simply revoked its passport. The high, vertical emotions, the love of the magnificent thing, the reverence for a doomed stand, were deported. They wait at the border, looking for a way back in. A deported feeling requires forged papers. It needs a costume loud enough to distract the border guard. If a story arrived dressed in straight-face heroism, your internal censor would block it at the door. But a universe plastered in skulls, chainswords, and cartoon excess is so absurd that the censor immediately files it under children's game. The defenses drop completely. The feeling slips right past. Carl Jung spent 50 years arguing that the deepest contents of the human mind are ancient, inherited forms. He called them archetypes. You do not invent them. They arrive, preloaded in the psyche, waiting for the right moment to surface. He compared an archetype to the invisible axial system of a crystal. You cannot hold the framework itself, but when the cultural conditions are right, the solution precipitates around those lines into a specific, glittering object. The writers of Warhammer accidentally tapped a super-saturated psychological solution. The cartoonish absurdity operates as the exact delivery mechanism, bringing these ancient archetypes straight into our chests, wearing power armor. The game's demigod Primarchs map this perfectly. Take Fulgrim, the Phoenician. He organized his entire existence around being flawless. He tried to amputate his own psychological shadow to reach pure perfection. The pursuit devoured him. Jung warned about this specific danger. A spotless figure is less than whole, missing the necessary dark. Fulgrim chased immaculate light and ended up a monster. Then there is Horus, the first found, the favored son, the brightest light in the Emperor's sky. He broke the galaxy because he refused to look his own envy and fear of abandonment in the face. When an inner darkness is not made conscious, it happens outside, as fate. Horus couldn't face his internal shadow. He projected it outward onto his father, went to war against it, and tore the galaxy into opposing halves. The 10,000-year civil war at the center of this game plays out human psychoanalysis at the scale of an empire. It maps a wound born from a refused piece of the self that splits a universe down the middle, which brings us to the ultimate payload of this entire smuggling route, Sanguinius, the winged angel. He carries a terrifying genetic flaw in his blood, a howling, vampiric craving to drink the enemy and eat his flesh. Jung called this union of opposites completeness. Sanguinius includes the dark. He is radiant beauty suspended directly over an abyss of violence. The human psyche naturally suspects pristine perfection. It bows helplessly from underneath to wholeness. Sanguinius also possesses flashes of genetic foresight. He sees his own death at the hands of Horus, years before the blade ever falls. He carries the date of his execution like a diagnosis, and his human half craves life with a ferocity that shames him. At the climax of the war, the defenders are pushed to the Eternity Gate. Sanguinius stands on the wall to hold it. He tells his soldiers they will likely all be dead in 3 days. He chooses to stay with his back to the last door, not out of some confidence in an unlikely victory, but because it is right. He turns to the mortals and asks, "Will you run?" Sanguinius sees the horror coming, and he actively consents to it. This foreknowing embrace of fate bypasses our modern cynicism completely. Come back to the disenchanted man sitting at a table, paying in paint and patience to detail the eyes of a tiny plastic figure. He is buying back a piece of himself. He participates in a customs-free zone for the soul, the one remaining space where he is permitted to be awed by a great and terrible death without a lawyer present. We built this loud, ridiculous galaxy to give a mind stripped of its ability to believe a safe place to hear the question, "Will you run?" And something older than our century, older than our irony, answers before we can stop it. No.